The cargo freighter Rising Phoenix drifted through the Kepler's Edge asteroid belt, like a tired old dog looking for a place to rest. Captain Ji-won Park sat in his command chair, watching the scanner displays with eyes that had seen too many close calls. The ship was 20 years old, patched together with spare parts and hope. Her hull was scarred from countless runs through dangerous space. But she was his ship, and she had never let him down. Beside him, Hyun Kim worked at the navigation console. His cybernetic eye glowed faintly blue as it processed flight data faster than any normal human could manage. He had lost the original eye in a pirate raid 5 years ago. Now the replacement made him the best navigator in the frontier territories. "Course is clear to New Sol colony," Hyun said. "Should arrive in 6 hours if we maintain current speed." Ji-won nodded. The cargo hold was full of medical supplies, food packets, and construction materials. The frontier colonies always needed supplies. Earth was far away, and the big corporations did not care much about settlements on the edge of human space. That was why captains like Ji-won existed. They took the dangerous runs that others refused. In the engine room, Minji Choi was performing her daily miracles. The old fusion reactor should have died years ago, but she kept it running through sheer skill and stubbornness. She talked to the engines like they were her children. Sometimes Ji-won thought the ship only kept flying because it was afraid of disappointing her. Doyen Lee sat at the weapons station, which was mostly for show. The Rising Phoenix had 2 small laser cannons that could barely scratch a pirate shuttle. Most merchant ships in this sector were the same. The corporations did not want armed freighters. They said it encouraged violence. Ji-won thought it just made them easier targets. The alarm started screaming. "Contact," Hyun shouted. "Multiple contacts. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around us." Ji-won's stomach dropped. He knew what was coming before the scanner even finished counting. 12 ships appeared on the display, surrounding the Rising Phoenix in a perfect sphere. Big ships, warships, and he recognized the design. Vraxian battlecruisers. The Vraxians were bad news. They looked like walking lizards, stood 8 feet tall, and believed that smaller species existed only to serve them. They raided colonies, took prisoners as slaves, and destroyed anyone who fought back. The Galactic Council did nothing because the Vraxians were strong and ruthless. "They are targeting us," Doyen said. His hands shook slightly as he checked his weapons. 2 small lasers against 12 warships. It was not even a fight. The communication system crackled to life. A harsh, hissing voice filled the bridge. "Attention, human vessel. This is Fleet Commander Thexvar of the Vraxian Empire. You are surrounded. Power down your systems immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile. You have 30 seconds to comply." Hyun looked at Ji-won. "Captain?" Minji's voice came through the intercom from engineering. "Ji-won, I can give you emergency power if you need to run, but we will not outrun warships." Doyen just stared at his useless weapons console. Ji-won felt strangely calm. He had known this day would come eventually. 15 years ago, he had watched Vraxian raiders burn his home colony. He watched them take his neighbors as slaves. He joined the military, fought them for 10 years, and when Earth told him to stop, he became a merchant instead. But he never stopped fighting. "Not really?" "Captain?" Hyun asked again. "What do we do?" Ji-won reached forward and opened the communication channel. His voice was steady and almost bored. "Commander Thexvar, this is Captain Ji-won Park of the Rising Phoenix. I heard what you said." "Then power down your systems, human," the Vraxian commander hissed. Ji-won smiled. It was not a nice smile. "You said I am surrounded. I just want to thank you for that." There was a pause. "What?" "You are all in range now," Ji-won said calmly. Then he pressed 3 buttons on his command console. Everything happened at once. The cargo bay doors exploded outward. 20 large containers shot out into space, spreading in all directions toward the Vraxian ships. The containers split open in the void, revealing their true contents. Not medical supplies, not food, nuclear warheads. Old ones from Earth's last major war, the kind that were supposed to be destroyed decades ago. The kind that got lost in the chaos and forgotten in some military warehouse until Jiwan found them. He had been carrying them for 3 months, waiting for the right moment. Proximity sensors in each warhead detected the Vraxian ships. They detonated. Space lit up like a dozen new suns being born at once. The electromagnetic pulses fried sensors and shields. The radiation washed over enemy hulls. 3 Vraxian cruisers simply vanished in the first wave of explosions. 4 more tumbled away, crippled and burning. But Jiwan was not done. The rising Phoenix did not just have 2 small laser cannons. The cargo bay doors fully opened, revealing hidden weapon mounts. Railguns, missile pods, and heavy plasma cannons emerged from concealed compartments all along the ship's hull. Jiwan had spent 5 years and all his money turning this old freighter into a trap. A Q-ship, they called it in the ancient naval days. A predator disguised as prey. "All weapons fire," Jiwan commanded. Doyen's hands flew across his console. The weapon station was not useless after all. It controlled enough firepower to match a military destroyer. Railgun rounds screamed through space at a fraction of light speed. Missiles locked onto damaged Vraxian ships and hunted them down. Plasma bolts tore through weakened shields. The remaining Vraxian ships tried to respond, but they were scattered and confused. They had expected an easy target. Instead, they were fighting for their lives. 2 more cruisers down, Hyun reported. 3 are trying to run. "Do not let them," Jiwan said coldly. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it ended, 11 Vraxian warships were debris fields. Only 1 escaped, badly damaged and leaking atmosphere. Jiwan sat back in his chair. His hands were steady. His heart rate was normal. He had been preparing for this for 15 years. "Damage report," he said. Minji's voice came through, slightly breathless. "Hull integrity at 80%. 2 railguns burned out. Port missile pod is empty, but we are still flying, Captain." "Casualties?" "None. We all survived." Jiwan nodded. Then he noticed something. The communication system was still broadcasting. His conversation with the Vraxian commander, the battle, everything had been transmitted on an open channel. Multiple alien species monitored this sector. They all heard it. They all heard him say, "You are all in range." Hyun noticed too. "Captain, that transmission went out on all frequencies." Multiple ships picked it up. Some are already rebroadcasting it. Jiwan shrugged. "Good. Let them hear it. Let the whole galaxy hear it." "The Vraxians will come after us," Doyen said. "They were already coming after us," Jiwan replied. "Now at least everyone will know we fight back." He stood and looked at his crew. "Set course for New Sol Colony. We still have a delivery to make, and somebody find me a new cargo to fill those empty containers. We have a reputation to maintain now." The rising Phoenix turned away from the debris field and jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, the wreckage slowly tumbled through space, and across the communication networks of a dozen species, a recording played over and over. "You are surrounded, human. You are all in range." The message spread like fire through dry grass. Within hours, it reached Earth. Within days, it echoed across the galaxy, and Captain Jiwan Park, merchant captain and hunter of slavers, became something he never intended to be, a legend. Ambassador Soman Yoon stood in her office on Nexus Prime and watched the recording for the 15th time. The space station floated in neutral territory, where dozens of alien species came to trade and negotiate. She had been Earth's ambassador here for 3 years. Usually her job was boring. Not today. "You are surrounded, human. You are all in range." Then the explosions. The battle. The impossible victory of 1 merchant ship against an entire Vraxian fleet. Her communication console would not stop beeping. The Vraxian ambassador demanded meetings. The Galactic Council wanted explanations. 20 different species sent requests for information, and Earth Command kept asking her what she knew about Captain Jiwan Park. The truth was, she knew nothing. She had never heard of him before yesterday. Her assistant, a nervous young man named Kangman, brought her another cup of coffee. "Ambassador, the Vraxian representative is here again. He is very angry." "They are always angry," Soman said. "Send him in." The Vraxian ambassador was named Krethmar. He was tall, scaled, and looked like he wanted to bite her head off. His yellow eyes burned with rage as he entered her office. Your species has committed an act of war, he hissed. One of your military vessels ambushed and destroyed a peaceful patrol fleet. Soman kept her face neutral. According to our records, the Rising Phoenix is a registered merchant vessel. And your patrol fleet was in human territory without permission. Lies. That ship was a warship disguised as a merchant. Prove it. Krethmar slammed his clawed hand on her desk. We have already sent a formal complaint to your government. We demand this Jiwan Park be arrested and handed over to us for trial. We demand compensation for our lost ships. We demand an apology. Somin stood up. She was much smaller than the Vraxian, but she did not show fear. My government will review your demands. Until then, I suggest you remember that you are in neutral territory. Physical threats against ambassadors are not permitted here. The Vraxian glared at her for a long moment, then turned and left without another word. Kang Min looked worried. What will Earth do? I do not know, Somin admitted. But we better find out who this Jiwan Park really is. Across the galaxy on Earth, Admiral Taehyung Shin sat in a secure military briefing room. On the screen in front of him was Jiwan Park's military record. It made for interesting reading. Captain Jiwan Park, age 34. Born on New Sol Colony. Parents killed in Vraxian raid when he was 19. Joined Earth Defense Force immediately after. Served for 10 years with distinction. Multiple decorations for bravery. Expert in tactics and asymmetric warfare. Left military 5 years ago to become independent merchant. But there was more. Classified files that only high-ranking officers could access. For the past 5 years, the Earth Defense Force had been tracking unusual activity in frontier space. Vraxian raiders kept disappearing. Slaver ships never made it home. Pirate bases were destroyed by unknown attackers. Now Taehyung understood. It was not unknown attackers. It was Jiwan Park and others like him. How many are there? He asked his intelligence officer. Major Yunbi sat across from him with a data pad. We have identified 43 former military personnel who became independent merchants after serving in frontier conflicts. All of them operate in areas with high Vraxian activity. All of them have combat-modified ships. They have been running an unauthorized war, Taehyung said. Yes, sir. For years. We just did not put the pieces together until now. Taehyung leaned back in his chair. The Vraxians want him arrested. They want us to apologize, will we? That depends on what Earth Command decides. But I can tell you what the people want. He gestured to another screen showing news feeds from across human space. Every channel was showing the recording. Every social media platform was sharing it. You are all in range had become the most popular phrase in human civilization overnight. People were calling Jiwan a hero. Some called him a terrorist, but everyone was talking about him. On a transport ship heading to Earth, a young journalist named Mira reviewed her notes. She had been investigating frontier merchants for months, trying to understand the economics of colonial supply chains. Then the Kepler's Edge incident happened, and her boring economic story became the biggest news in the galaxy. She had dug deep, found shipping records, manifests, witness statements. Jiwan Park was not just a merchant. He was a hunter. For 5 years he had been tracking Vraxian raiders, learning their patterns and ambushing them. The nuclear warheads were not luck. He had planned everything, but why? What made a man give up a military career to fight a private war? Mira found her answer in old colonial records. 15 years ago, New Sol Colony was raided. 147 people were taken as slaves. Among them were a man and woman named Park Dong-hyun and Lee Yuna. Jiwan's parents. They never came home. Mira understood now. This was not about tactics or military strategy. This was about a son who never stopped looking for his parents. And when he realized he would never find them, he decided to make sure no other families were torn apart the same way. She looked at the recording again. Jiwan's voice was so calm when he said those words. You are all in range. Like he had been waiting his whole life to say them. This was going to be one hell of a story. Back on Nexus Prime, Soman received an urgent message from Earth Command. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. Earth would not apologize. Earth would not arrest Jiwan Park. Instead, Chancellor Boyoung Han was giving a speech in 2 hours and it would change everything. Soman watched the speech live. Chancellor Boyoung was a small woman with iron in her spine. She had led Earth's government through economic crisis and political chaos. Now she stood before the United Earth Assembly and spoke clearly. The Vraxian Empire has demanded we apologize for defending ourselves. They want us to arrest a man who destroyed their raiders in self-defense. They want us to be victims again. My answer is no. The assembly erupted in cheers. Boyoung waited for silence. For too long we have accepted that the frontier is dangerous. We have accepted that our colonies are targets. We have accepted that the Galactic Council will not protect us no more. Captain Jiwon Park did what our government should have done years ago. He defended human lives against an empire that sees us as prey. I will not arrest him. I will not apologize. Instead, I say this to the Vraxian Empire and anyone else who thinks humanity is weak. We are done being easy targets. You want to surround us? You want to threaten our ships and colonies? Remember Captain Park's words. You are all in range. The speech went viral immediately. Human colonies across the galaxy celebrated. Earth's military began mobilizing. Defense budgets increased overnight. But Soman knew what this meant. It meant war. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. The Vraxians would not accept this insult. They would retaliate. She sent a message to Earth Command. We need to prepare for the worst. The Vraxians will come. The response was simple. Let them come. On a merchant ship somewhere in deep space, Jiwon watched Chancellor Boyoung's speech with his crew. When it ended, Hyun looked at him. You just became the most famous human in the galaxy, Hyun said. I just became the most wanted human in the galaxy, Jiwon corrected. The Vraxians will hunt us now. They were already hunting us, Minji pointed out. Doyun was quiet for a moment, then asked, Captain, did you know this would happen? Did you know your message would spread like this? Jiwon thought about it. No. I just wanted to destroy those ships before they could hurt anyone else. But if my words help other people find courage, then good. The galaxy needs to know that humans fight back. His communication console beeped. A coded message from an unknown source. Jiwon opened it carefully. It was from another merchant captain. The message was short. Just took down a slaver convoy near Beta Sector. 17 prisoners freed. Told them the same thing you did. You are all in range. Thanks for showing us the way. We are not alone anymore. More messages followed. Dozens of them. Independent merchants, former military colonists with hidden weapons. All of them inspired by what happened at Kepler's Edge. All of them ready to fight. Jiwon realized what he had started. It was not just a battle. It was a movement. Set course for the outer colonies, he told Hyun. If the Vraxians are coming, we need to be ready. And we need to find others like us. It is time to organize. The rising phoenix jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, across dozens of worlds and hundreds of ships, humans prepared for war. They sharpened their weapons. They hid their traps. They practiced the words that would become their battle cry. You are all in range, the galaxy would never be the same. The Vraxian war fleet Crimson Talon cut through space like a knife through flesh. Commander Thexvar stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the tactical display. 50 warships, 10,000 soldiers, enough firepower to burn a planet, and it was all because of one human merchant who got lucky. That was what Thexvar told himself. Luck, not skill. Not courage, just luck. The human found some old nuclear weapons and got lucky. That was all. But deep down, in a place he would never admit existed, Thexvar was afraid. He had been the one who escaped from Kepler's Edge. He had been on one of the ships that survived. He saw what that human did, and it was not luck. Status report, he demanded. His second officer, a younger Vraxian named Kresh, checked his console. We will reach New Busan Colony in 6 hours. Our scouts report the colony has approximately 30,000 humans. No military presence detected. They should surrender immediately. Thexvar nodded. New Busan was a farming colony. Crops and civilian equipment. They would fold quickly and the Vraxian Empire would send a message to Earth. This is what happens when you defy us. But something nagged at him. He pulled up reports of other recent incidents. 3 more Vraxian raider groups had been destroyed in the past 2 weeks. Each time, the attackers identified themselves as merchant vessels. Each time they used the same words. You are all in range. What if it was not just one human? What if there were more like Jiwon Park? On New Busan Colony, Administrator Jin Woo Kang stood in the command center and looked at the evacuation numbers. They were terrible. Only 15% of the population had agreed to leave. The rest wanted to stay. They are going to die, his deputy said. 50 Vraxian warships are coming. We have nothing to fight them with. We have ourselves, Jinwoo replied. He was a middle-aged man who had spent 20 years building this colony from nothing. He was not going to abandon it now. After Chancellor Boyong's speech, something changed in the human colonies. People stopped accepting fear. They remembered what Ji-won Park did. 1 ship against 12 enemies. And he won. Jinwoo pulled up the hidden files on his computer. Files that arrived 3 days ago from an encrypted source. Blueprints, weapon designs, instructions for turning civilian equipment into military tools. And a message. If they come for you, make them pay for every inch. You are all in range. It was from Ji-won Park himself. Jinwoo called a colony meeting. 5,000 people showed up. He told them the truth. The Vraxians were coming. They would destroy the colony. Most people would die. But, Jinwoo said, we can make them remember us. We can make them afraid. We can show the galaxy that humans do not surrender. He expected arguments. He expected fear. Instead, he saw determination. An old farmer named Garam stood up. My son was taken by Vraxian raiders 10 years ago. I never saw him again. If they want this colony, they can have it. But they will pay in blood. A young mother named Bora held her daughter's hand. My girl deserves to grow up free. If we run, they will just follow. Better to fight here. 1 by 1, people volunteered. They armed themselves with mining lasers and construction tools. They turned tractors into mobile gun platforms. They planted explosives in the fields. They prepared ambush points in every building. New Busan was not a military base, but it became one. On Earth, Admiral Taehyung prepared the fleet for deployment. He knew they could not reach New Busan in time. The colony was too far away. But he could position ships near other vulnerable colonies. He could prepare for what came next. Major Yunbi brought him updated intelligence. Sir, we have intercepted communications from 40 merchant vessels. They are all heading toward New Busan. What? Why? They are responding to a call from Ji-won Park. He is organizing a defense. Taehyung felt a chill. This was it. This was the moment everything changed. Unauthorized military action. Civilians fighting a war. If it went wrong, thousands would die and Earth would be blamed. But if it went right, do not interfere, Taehyung ordered. Let them go. And track everything. I want full recordings of whatever happens. Yes, sir. And sir, the Vraxians are not just attacking New Busan. They have fleets moving toward 5 other colonies simultaneously. They are trying to overwhelm us. Taehyung nodded slowly. Then we split our forces. Official Earth Defense Force ships protect the 3 largest colonies. The merchant fleet helps New Busan, and we pray this works. When the Vraxian fleet arrived at New Busan, Thexvar expected to see a panicked colony begging for mercy. Instead, his sensors detected weapon signatures. Lots of them. That is impossible, he said. Intelligence said this was a farming colony. It was, Commander, Kresh replied. But they appear to have armed themselves. Thexvar studied the readings. The weapons were crude, improvised, weak. Nothing that could stop his fleet. But it meant the humans were going to resist. Fine, he said. We will make an example of them. All ships open fire. Plasma bolts rained down on New Busan. Explosions ripped through fields and buildings. The colony's shields, hastily constructed from cargo ship generators, held for exactly 2 minutes before failing. But the humans did not break. From hidden bunkers and concealed positions, they fired back. Mining lasers cut through the hulls of landing craft. Missiles built from fertilizer and fuel oil destroyed low-flying attack ships. And everywhere humans fought with a desperate fury that shocked the Vraxians. Thexvar sent ground troops. They landed in the agricultural district expecting easy targets. Instead, they walked into a trap. The fields were mined. The buildings were rigged with explosives. Human fighters ambushed them from every direction. For every human that fell, they took 3 Vraxians with them. Jinwoo coordinated the defense from a bunker beneath the command center. Reports flooded in. The eastern district was lost. The northern farms were burning. Casualties were mounting. But the Vraxians were paying for every meter. How long can we hold? His deputy asked. Long enough, Jinwoo replied. Then new contacts appeared on the scanner. 40 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Merchant vessels. And leading them was the Rising Phoenix. Ji-won's voice came through on the colony's communication system. New Busan, this is Captain Ji-won Park. Sorry we are late. Let us even the odds. The merchant fleet attacked like a pack of wolves. They were not military ships, but they had been modified and armed. They hit the Vraxian fleet from unexpected angles. They used guerrilla tactics, firing and running, refusing to stand and fight. Texvar raged at his officers. They are just merchants. Destroy them. But the merchants knew what they were doing. They targeted damaged ships. They destroyed supply vessels. They rescued human fighters from surrounded positions. And every time they scored a victory, they broadcast the same message. You are all in range. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, New Busan was a ruin. Half the colony was destroyed. 3,000 humans were dead. But the Vraxian fleet limped away with 20 ships destroyed and 30 more damaged. They had failed to take the colony. They had failed to break human resistance, and the entire galaxy watched it happen. In the ruins of New Busan's command center, Jinwoo found a working camera. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His clothes were burned. His face was covered in soot. But he looked into that camera with clear eyes. They surrounded us, he said. They had more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. But we did not surrender. We fought for our home. And they learned what Captain Park already knew. We are all in range. Every human, every colony, every ship. If you come for us, we will make you bleed. We will make you pay. We will never stop fighting. The message transmitted before the camera died. Within hours, it was the most watched video in human history. The image of Jinwoo, battered but unbroken, became a symbol. Jiwon watched the recording from his ship. He had lost 3 vessels in the battle. Good captains, good crews, but they saved thousands of civilians. They proved that humans could fight back. Hyun looked at the damage reports. Captain, the Vraxians are attacking 4 other colonies right now. We cannot help them all. We do not need to help them all, Jiwon said. They will help themselves. We just showed them how. He opened a communication channel to all merchant vessels in range. This is Captain Jiwon Park to all independent merchants. The war has started. The Vraxians think they can crush us through force. They are wrong. Every colony is a fortress. Every ship is a weapon. Every human is a soldier. Spread the word. Teach the others. And remember, no matter how many enemies we face, they are all in range. The message spread like wildfire. And across human space, ordinary people picked up weapons and prepared to fight. They were farmers, engineers, teachers, parents. But they were also survivors. They were fighters. They were human. And the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. 6 months after Kepler's Edge, the galaxy was a different place. Ambassador Soman sat in a meeting room with representatives from 5 different alien species. None of them were human, and they all wanted the same thing. We wish to join your alliance, the Tekla representative said. She was a blue-skinned humanoid with 4 arms. Her people had been fighting the Vraxians for decades. Your chancellor's speech inspired us. Your colonist resistance showed us that victory is possible. The Masari ambassador, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed with agreement. The Vraxians have raided our outer worlds for years. We thought we were too weak to fight back, but if humans can do it, perhaps we can too. Soman chose her words carefully. Earth does not have a formal alliance. We have independent merchants and colonists defending themselves. What you saw was not organized by our government. Then organize it, the Orvath representative said. He was a massive bear-like creature with intelligent eyes. The Vraxians are overextended. They are fighting on too many fronts. Their economy is suffering. Their military is stretched thin. This is the moment to strike. But we cannot do it alone. We need leadership. We need Earth. Soman knew this was beyond her authority. She needed guidance from Earth, but she also knew an opportunity when she saw one. The Vraxians had dominated this region of space for generations. Now for the first time, their victims were organizing. I will contact my government, she said. But tell me honestly, what do you bring to this alliance? What can you offer? The Teklar showed data on manufacturing. The Masari offered scientific research. The Orvath had agricultural resources. Each species brought something valuable. Together, they could match the Vraxian Empire, if they worked together. On a hidden asteroid base, Jiwon met with 30 other merchant captains. They called themselves the Free Fleet now, independent operators who had banded together to fight slavers and raiders. Jiwon stood before them and looked at faces he had come to know. These were not professional soldiers. They were merchants, colonists, former military personnel who could not stop fighting. They were rough, scarred, and determined. The Vraxians are hunting us, Jiwon said. They have put bounties on our heads. The price for me alone is enough to buy a small moon. But they are making a mistake. They think we are bandits. They think we are criminals. They do not understand what we really are. What are we? Asked Captain Yuna from the Steel Rain. She was a grandmother who lost her entire family to Vraxian raiders. Now she captained one of the most deadly ships in the fleet. We are the Resistance, Jiwan replied. We are the voice of every species that refused to accept slavery. And we are going to teach the galaxy how to fight back. He pulled up a holographic map showing Vraxian supply routes. Intelligence Officer Subin has been analyzing enemy movements for months. Show them what you found. Subin stepped forward. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes who had spent years in military intelligence before joining the Free Fleet. The Vraxian Empire is collapsing from within. They do not produce enough food to feed their population. They rely on tribute from conquered worlds. Their warships need rare minerals that only come from specific mining operations. Their economy is a pyramid scheme that only works if they keep conquering. She zoomed in on critical locations. We have disrupted 73 supply convoys in the past 6 months. Food is scarce on Vraxian core worlds. Their military is rationing fuel. And their subject species are starting to rebel, all because we made it expensive to operate in this region. Another captain spoke up. So what? We have annoyed them. They still have 1,000 warships. We have 40 ships. We do not need to destroy 1,000 warships, Jiwan said. We need to make it impossible for them to sustain 1,000 warships. We cut their supply lines. We arm rebellions on conquered worlds. We make every conquest cost more than it is worth. Eventually, the Empire will collapse under its own weight. That could take years, someone objected. Then we fight for years, Jiwan replied simply. This is not about quick victory. This is about survival. And we have something they do not have. We have nothing to lose. On Earth, Admiral Taehyung presented a plan to the military council. It was insane. It was brilliant. And it might actually work. The Vraxian Empire is concentrating forces near their homeworld, he explained. They expect us to attack there. Instead, we hit them everywhere else. Coordinated strikes on 73 targets simultaneously. Supply depots, shipyards, mining operations, occupied colonies. Chancellor Boyoung studied the plan. How many ships do we have available? 300 warships, plus the Free Fleet's 40 merchant raiders, plus whatever ships our new allies can contribute. And the Vraxians? They have about 200 ships protecting these targets. The rest are defending their homeworld, against an attack that will never come. You are proposing the largest military operation in human history based on the idea that we can trick them, Boyoung said. Yes. Chancellor, she smiled. I like it. Make it happen. The operation was called Surrounded. The name was Jiwan's idea. It began with the Free Fleet broadcasting a challenge. They claimed they were going to attack the Vraxian homeworld. It was obviously a lie. They did not have enough ships. But Commander Thexvar, still obsessed with capturing Jiwan, convinced his superiors to take the threat seriously. The Vraxian Empire pulled fleets from across their territory. They concentrated everything near their home system. They prepared for a massive battle. The battle never came. Instead, 300 Earth Defense Force ships and allies hit 73 undefended targets at once. Shipyards that built Vraxian war vessels were destroyed. Food storage facilities burned. Mining operations were captured by freed slave workers who then joined the rebellion. In 6 hours, the Vraxian Empire lost 30 years of infrastructure development. Thexvar realized the deception too late. He tried to redeploy his fleets, but the damage was done. The Empire was reeling. Their economy was in chaos. Conquered worlds were rising in rebellion, and through it all on every communication channel the message repeated. You surrounded yourselves with enemies. We are all in range. Jiwan watched the reports come in from the bridge of the Rising Phoenix. Operation Surrounded was succeeding beyond their best estimates. The Vraxian Empire was not destroyed, but it was mortally wounded. Yun turned from his console. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from Vraxian Command. They want to negotiate. Negotiate what? Peace terms. Jiwan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Forward it to Ambassador Soman. This is beyond my authority now. Minji's voice came through from engineering. We did it, Jiwan. We actually did it. We beat them. We survived them, Jiwan corrected. That is different from beating them. But yes, we survived. Doyun looked at him. What happens now? Now we rebuild. We help the species they enslaved. We make sure this never happens again. Jiwan stood and looked at his crew. And we keep flying. Because the galaxy needs to know that humans keep their promises. We said we were all in range. We proved it. Now we have to prove we are worth trusting. On Nexus Prime, Soman received the Vraxian peace proposal. It was not a surrender, but it was close. They would release all slaves. They would pay reparations. They would reduce their military and accept oversight. The terms were harsh, but fair. She looked at the representatives from the Teklar, Misari, Orvath, and a dozen other species who had joined what they were now calling the Free Worlds Coalition. We have an opportunity here, she said, not just to end a war, but to build something new. An alliance based on mutual defense and respect. A coalition where no species dominates others. Will the Vraxians honor these terms? The Teklar asked. If they do not, we will be ready, Soman replied. Because now they know the truth. They know what happens when you surround humans. They know what happens when you threaten our friends, she smiled. They know that we are all in range. The peace treaty was signed 3 weeks later. The Vraxian Empire became a shadow of its former self. Dozens of species gained independence. The Free Worlds Coalition grew into the largest defensive alliance in the galaxy, and Captain Jiwan Park returned to doing what he did best. He flew his ship through dangerous space, delivering supplies to colonies that needed them. He was still a merchant, still independent, still free, but now when pirates or slavers saw his ship, they ran. Because they knew who he was. They knew what he represented. He was the human who refused to surrender, the man who looked at impossible odds and laughed. The captain who reminded the galaxy that victims could become victors. His message echoed across space, carried by 1,000 voices. You are all in range. 1 year after Kepler's Edge, the galaxy was still changing. G1 stood on the bridge of the rising Phoenix and watched a convoy of refugee ships pass by. They were fleeing from the Kresh conflict, a border war between two alien species that had nothing to do with humans. But humans were helping anyway. Captain, we have clearance to dock with the lead refugee ship, Hyun reported. They need medical supplies and food. Send everything we can spare, Jiwan ordered, and ask if they need escort to the nearest safe port. This was what his life had become. He was still a merchant captain, still flying dangerous routes, but now he was also something else, a symbol, a legend. The man who proved that fighting back was possible. He hated it sometimes. The fame, the attention. People calling him a hero when he was just a man who got angry and refused to quit. But he understood why it mattered. The galaxy needed heroes. It needed to believe that ordinary people could make a difference. Minji came to the bridge with a data pad. Jiwan, I have the final calculations for the new engine modifications. If we install them, we can increase our jump range by 20%. But it will cost everything we have saved. Do it, Jiwan said without hesitation. Better engines mean we can help more people. Doyen looked up from his weapons console. Captain, I have been thinking, maybe we should accept Earth's offer. They want to give us official military status. Better funding. Support from the fleet. No, Jiwan said firmly. The moment we become official military, we lose our freedom. We become bound by politics and regulations. The Free Fleet works because we can go where we are needed without asking permission. But we are running out of money, Doyun pointed out. Supplies are expensive. Repairs are expensive. We cannot keep doing this forever, Jiwan smiled. We will find a way. We always do. On Earth, Admiral Taehyung reviewed the new military doctrine that would change everything. It was called the Merchant Defense Initiative. Earth was officially recognizing and supporting independent operators like G1. They would not be part of the military. They would not take orders from Earth Command, but they would receive training, supplies, and intelligence support. In return, they would continue doing what they did best. Being unpredictable, being everywhere. Being dangerous. This is insane, one of the generals said. We are creating an army we cannot control. We are creating an army that does not need to be controlled, Taehyung replied. The Vraxians had perfect control over their military. They had ranks and orders and discipline, and they lost to merchant captains flying cargo ships. Maybe perfect control is not the answer. Chancellor Boyoung approved the initiative. Within months, 200 independent merchant vessels had signed up. They were trained in combat tactics. They were given access to better weapons. They became a force that no enemy could predict or counter. The galaxy called them the Ghost Fleet. Ships that appeared from nowhere, struck hard and vanished before anyone could respond. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Sumin hosted a ceremony. The Free Worlds Coalition was officially forming its government. 23 species had joined. More were applying every month. The Vraxian Empire had been invited to join as well. Under strict conditions. They had to prove they had changed. They had to earn trust. Some Vraxians accepted. Others refused and retreated to their core worlds, bitter and angry. But the threat they once posed was gone. During the ceremony, Somin gave a speech. 1 year ago, a single human merchant captain faced impossible odds. He could have surrendered. He could have run. Instead, he fought, and his words echoed across the galaxy. You are all in range. She paused to let that sink in. Those words changed everything. They reminded us that victims can fight back, that the surrounded can become the victors, that ordinary people can change history. Today, as we form this coalition, we honor that message. We promise that no species will face oppression alone. We promise that aggressors will always find resistance. We promise that everyone who threatens peace will discover the truth. They are all in range. The crowd erupted in applause. Representatives from dozens of species stood together, united by a message that one human spoke in a moment of defiance. Journalist Mira published her book about the Kepler's Edge incident. It became an instant bestseller across multiple species. She told the full story. Jiwan's past, his pain, his determination, the secret war he fought for 5 years before that famous battle. But she also told the stories of others. Colonists who fought at New Busan, merchant captains who joined the Free Fleet, diplomats who built the coalition, soldiers who gave their lives for freedom. The message was clear. Jiwan was important, but he was not alone. The victory belonged to everyone who refused to accept defeat. In the book's final chapter, Mira interviewed Jiwan. She asked him what he would say to young people who wanted to follow his path. His answer was simple. Do not try to be a hero. Heroes get statues. Heroes get remembered. I do not want statues. I want a galaxy where people can live in peace without needing heroes. But until that day comes, be ready. Be prepared, and never let anyone tell you that you are powerless. We are all in range always. 50 years passed. The rising phoenix was long since retired, sitting in a museum on Earth. Jiwan was old now, in his 80s. He still flew occasionally, though in smaller ships. He still helped refugees and delivered supplies. He could not stop. It was who he was. At the Earth Naval Academy, intelligence officer Subin taught a class on asymmetric warfare. She was old too, her hair silver, but her mind was still sharp. Her students were young cadets from a dozen different species. Humans, Teklar, Misari, even some young Vraxians who wanted to prove their people had changed. Can anyone tell me why the Battle of Kepler's Edge matters? She asked her class. A human cadet raised his hand. Because Captain Park won against impossible odds. Wrong, Subin said. Plenty of people win against impossible odds. That is not what made it special. Anyone else? A Teklar student tried. Because his message inspired others. Closer. But still not quite right. She pulled up the famous recording. The whole class had seen it 1,000 times. But they watched again as Jiwan's voice spoke those immortal words. You are surrounded. Human. You are all in range. The Battle of Kepler's Edge matters, Subin explained, because it reminded us of a truth we had forgotten. Power comes not from the size of your fleet or the strength of your weapons. Power comes from the willingness to fight for what matters. One person with courage is more dangerous than 1,000 soldiers who are just following orders. Captain Park did not win because he was stronger. He won because he refused to accept defeat, and that refusal spread like fire. She looked at her students. Some of you will become admirals. Some will command fleets. Some will negotiate treaties. But all of you will face moments where victory seems impossible. In those moments, remember Kepler's Edge. Remember that you are never truly surrounded as long as you refuse to give up. Remember that everyone who threatens you is also in range. A young Vraxian student raised his claw hesitantly. Teacher Subin, do you know what happened to Captain Park? Is he still alive? Subin smiled. Last I heard, he was running medical supplies to a colony near the frontier. He is 83 years old. His ship is small and slow. But he is still flying, still helping. Some people cannot stop being who they are. After class, Subin walked to her office and found a message waiting. It was from Jiwan. They still kept in touch after all these years. The message was short. Subin, heard you are still teaching those kids about Kepler's Edge. I hope you tell them the truth. It was not about being brave. It was about being too stubborn to quit. Also, I found another group of refugees who need help near Sector 7. Sending you the coordinates. Maybe your students want a field trip? Subin laughed. Some things never changed. On a rebuilt New Busan colony, a memorial stood in the central plaza. It was a simple black wall with names. 3,000 names of people who died defending their home. At the top, a holographic display played the final message from Administrator Jinwoo. We are all in range. Tourists came from across the galaxy to see it. They stood in silence and remembered the day ordinary farmers became warriors. The day a colony refused to surrender. Children played in the plaza, running and laughing without fear. They had grown up in a different galaxy, one where the weak were protected, where aggressors faced consequences, where victims became victors. That was Jiwon's true legacy, not the battles he won, not the ships he destroyed, but the galaxy he helped create, a galaxy where his famous words were no longer necessary because no one dared to test them, but the words remained. Carved into monuments, taught in schools, whispered by refugees who found hope, shouted by defenders who refused to break. You are all in range. In his small ship near the frontier, Jiwon received a distress call. A transport full of families was being chased by pirates. They needed help. He was old. He was tired. He had earned retirement 1,000 times over, but he turned his ship toward the coordinates anyway, because some people cannot stop being who they are. Some people cannot rest while others need help. Some people carry their convictions until the day they die. And as Jiwon's ship accelerated toward danger once more, a young refugee child asked her mother a question. Mama, who was the human who said those words? The one from the stories